Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream for Monday, April 4th. How's everybody doing? Hope you all had a good weekend. I'm going to jump right into it. If you have any questions or comments and you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, I will very happily respond to them. May keep it a little short tonight, though. There's a lot going on, but as I said, let's just dive right in, shall we? So there's a lot going on right now, guys. We're fighting for two things. Number one, the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. Number one. Number two, we're fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans. Go to our change.org petition, change.org/cancel student loans, and you will see it there. We've got like 1.1 million signatures on that at this point. There's no good reason that we can't have 20, 25, maybe even 30 or more million signatures on that thing. So I would urge you, if you care at all about this problem, please go to our petition and sign it. And more than that, share it with everybody you know who has student loans. Here's the important fact, guys. Even before this pandemic, 4 out of 5 of all student loan borrowers we're never going to be able to repay their loans. Never. 80%. So 64.3% of all borrowers were not paying at all on their federal student loans before the pandemic. And even if you subtract out the people who were in school, it's still 57% were not paying on their student loans before COVID. So today, almost nobody is paying because of the moratorium. And people have had 2 years now to rethink their lives, take a step back, look at the big picture, etc. And guys, I'm here to tell you, the federal student loan system is essentially dead at this point. It is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. I could throw out so many facts at you right now to prove that point. But that first thing is pretty strong. Second thing, 1 out of 5 of all adults has student loans. 4 out of 5 of all of them were never going to be able to pay their student loans, as I said. The default rate for 2004 students who were only borrowing a third of what people are borrowing today is 40%. That's twice higher than the default rate for subprime home mortgages. So lending systems fail from time to time, sometimes spectacularly. This one is failed. Subprimes were failed. This is way more failed than subprime home mortgages. This is as failed, in fact, I'd say more failed as S&L loans, like in the mid-'80s, right? That was another lending system that failed. These things happen, guys, and it's not your fault. It's not the borrower's fault. Our opposition, and we do have opposition, they love to wag the finger at the borrowers and say, oh, well, you should have done this. You should have done that. You're irresponsible. You took the wrong classes. You did no. Look, the people have not changed much in the past 40 years. On balance, I'd say they've probably become slightly more responsible, not far more irresponsible. But essentially, let's just assume for the sake of argument, they pretty much haven't changed. What has changed is the lending system behind this whole thing. It is, for lack of a better word, in fact, there is no better word, a scam. The founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy rights, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army. And that's been taken away uniquely from student loans. Every other loan in this country also, to my knowledge, has statutes of limitations. And again, those have been taken away, stripped from federal student loans. So these loans have been weaponized against the country. And lo and behold, now we see the results. At the turn of this current century, we owed something like maybe a couple $100 billion in student loans. Today, as a country, I know the official figure is something like 1.8 trillion, but it's way higher than that. There's a lot of debt out there people have refinance their federal loans at private banks and not told anybody and stuff like that. So there's a lot of other debt out there. Plus, I think the Department of Education is actually misreporting its portfolio, believe it or not. I think the Department of Education is not including interest that accrues on defaulted loans after the time of default. So I haven't been able to get to the bottom of that yet. I've tried, and we've asked several times now, and the Department of Education appears to be refusing to answer that question. I know it was true that they did not report interest on defaults as of around 2009 or 10. I think that still is happening today. But anyways, that would be another several hundreds of billions of dollars additional that are not being reported. So in the space of 20 years, we've gone from 200 billion to 2 trillion roughly. And that's even with the last 2 years being the repayments being on hold. So guys, this is not your fault. Okay, we're glad you're here, by the way. And maybe one of the more cathartic things I'll say to everyone tonight is we're not a small minority of borrowers who, for one reason or another, saw our loans blow up on us. We are in the large majority of borrowers, and more than half of us were not paying before the pandemic. Almost no one is now, and very few will ever resume. I'll be stunned if and when they turn this lending system back on, May 1st, supposedly. We'll see. We should be hearing about that any day now, by the way. I would be stunned if even 20% of the borrowers actually resume paying on their loans, if and when they decide to turn them back on. So we got this, guys. But, this could have a good ending. It could have a bad ending. The good ending is where we get bankruptcy protections returned to the loans. The jig is up. The game essentially is over. And that very quickly leads to widespread, meaningful, actual student loan cancellation, maybe even total. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a bad ending too that could happen. Our opposition, and we've seen them doing this for 17 years now. They would love to foist a fake loan cancellation gimmick on us and keep the threat of bankruptcy away from these loans. This is the sort of insider, dirty little secret game, trap that we've seen sprung on us quite a few times over the past 17 years. They'll, Joe Biden tomorrow could hold a press conference and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am now going to do everything what the liberals or the squad wants. I'm going to cancel up to $50,000 in student loans. And you know what's going to happen? Almost nothing for almost everyone. The Department of Education and its swamp contractors and snake minion creatures, the bad people, our opposition, they will take an up to $50,000 loan cancellation and they will make sure they will bureaucratize it to death so that at the end of the day, you get $3,000, you get $13,000. Congratulations. You get nothing because you earn too much. You get nothing because you're in default. You get nothing because you filled out your form wrong. That's the way that's going to go. Up to $50,000 can mean anything. And if the Department of Education, lawyers, and all the bad people, our opposition, have their way, it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. It's probably the most important warning I have for you tonight. We've seen that movie many times in the past. We saw it with income contingent repayment, where 32 people out of millions actually got their loans canceled. We're seeing it right now with public service loan forgiveness, where a tiny, tiny percentage actually make it through. At the end of the day, it'll probably end up being like a 3% success rate or something stupid like that. We're going to see it with income-based repayments. Same thing. As of 2015, in just 1 year alone, 57% of the people had been kicked out of IBR, not gotten the loan cancellation they were expecting. And in fact, all the people who get kicked out, the 99 whatever percent of people, they wind up with a far larger loan balance than had they never tried before. So they get kicked to the curb and they get left owing far more than had they never tried. So all of these fake forgiveness gimmicks, we have to be smarter than that, guys. We can't let ourselves be tricked again. So the good ending is what I said. First, we get the threat of bankruptcy back, which compels good faith. Like it's either that or they get nothing, right? That's the way the real world of finance works with every other loan. And then obviously the jig is up and Joe Biden is going to realize that he's got to cancel loans broadly, meaningfully. And, at this late date in, I'd say, the death spiral of this lending system, they might realize that, well, it's probably best just to cancel all the loans and start over again. So that's the good death. That's the cheap way to get rid of these loans. The president can cancel loans without needing one dime from the Treasury, without adding one penny to the national debt. Joe Biden could do it without congressional authorization, without congressional approval, without congressional appropriation, most importantly. It's the cheapest and easiest way to stimulate the economy out there. That's the good death. The bad death is either Biden does nothing and we see the collection companies, sink their teeth into us. And with bankruptcy continuing to be gone, it will get very ugly, ladies and gentlemen. It will get very ugly, probably get violent, probably get socially and civilly unrestful. We don't want that bad outcome, guys. We want that first thing. We want the good outcome. And if they try and buy us off with a fake $10,000 loan cancellation, fake up to $50,000 loan cancellation, no, that's a bad ending, guys. Make no mistake. And think about it this way. I know nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. It's a terrible thing to have to fight for. And few people should even have to file when we get that right returned. But all that doesn't matter. We've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. We've got to have the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side. And that is the most important thing I will say tonight. We've got a great bill right now, S-2598. It will return bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. Everybody within the sound of my voice, everybody with student loans, if they want their loans canceled, if they want some kind of a break on interest or some of the other solutions I've heard bandied about, whatever you need done with your student loans, it won't happen, or maybe I should say more positively, it will only happen when we get the threat of bankruptcy back. Of all the hard lessons we've learned over the years, that is the most important lesson we have learned. So I get very nervous when I see people calling for student loan cancellation and they either are quiet about bankruptcy or some of them even oppose bankruptcy. That's a trick. That's a trick, guys. It's a trick. It's been played on us before. Don't fall for it. Please be smarter than that. Learn from our 17 years of hard, very hard earned wisdom. We can't let ourselves be screwed like that again. Okay, so I'm looking for some comments here. Let's see. So it's a big week, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden, right now, the president and his staff are wondering to themselves, what are we going to do? Are we going to extend this repayment pause? Maybe, probably. We'll see. I think we'll know by the end of this week, whichever way that goes. They're also having to walk their talk on bankruptcy. I'm very glad to announce that James Cavall, Richard Cordray, and other important people at the Department of Education have said that they are going to revisit how they oppose student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. So, in other words, they supposedly are going to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. Now, whether that's all borrowers, a blanket thing, or whether there's some whether it's a little more subtle and surgical than that, I think it's probably going to be that second thing. But that remains to be seen. They haven't said anything yet. I am hoping and expecting that we will hear something from them on that very important question, hopefully this week. So I think this may be a very interesting week for us, ladies and gentlemen. And probably the most important thing tactically, I will tell you tonight, is that, ladies and gentlemen, this does not happen in a vacuum. It does not. Much depends on how hard we in this group here fight. This group is way more important than we might appear, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we'd have a bank. In fact, I know we would not have a bankruptcy bill to fight for, S-2598, but for our group's efforts. I frankly don't think that we would be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. But for our group's petition that started rocking in 2020. And after 6 months, when it was up to 500,000 signatures, finally Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept, and now it's the top of the news. That stuff started here, guys, on this group, believe it or not. So what we do, what you do to help us fight really makes all the difference. All the difference. You have no idea how important you are. So true. We are the pioneers, guys. We have to fight a little harder. We have to punch a little above our weight. So just keep that in mind. I'm still looking for comments. Oh, sometimes I can't see the comments, particularly on Facebook. Hopefully I will be able to see them tonight. Yes, here we are. Hey, Lisa Longmire says, nothing like waiting until the last minute to extend or cancel. Yeah, Lisa, that's a good point. The last time Biden extended, we were looking at a February 1st deadline, and they announced the extension well before that. It was in the month of December, I believe, when they announced that they were going to extend. So now we're May 1st is the deadline, and we're on April 4th already. So I don't know. A couple months ago, I was about a 60-40, even a 70-30 that they were going to extend the moratorium. But, private student loan companies like SoFi, like College Avenue Lending, a bunch of private loan snakes. I could rattle off a quick list, something called FinTech, FINTECH. They have been lobbying the president and Susan Rice, who for whatever reason has decided to take a stake in this game against us, Ambassador Susan Rice. They have been lobbying Biden very hard to turn these loans back on. And they're making just ridiculous arguments, I might add. SoFi is saying things like, oh, we've got to turn these loans back on because otherwise inflation. Like, don't tell student loan borrowers about inflation. Give me a break. We just got through throwing trillions of dollars, trillions upon trillions, out into the economy. Where were the inflation fear mongers then? SoFi is a disgusting company. You know what SoFi does? They take the most successful federal student loan borrowers and they steal them away from the federal government so they can make that virtually guaranteed profit. And they're fewer and far between, but there still are a few. So SoFi is demanding that everyone, including the 80% of student loan borrowers who are absolutely wrecked, we're never going to be able to repay their loans, begin repayment so that SoFi can come in and steal the rest. SoFi's business model, by the way, is failed. And if you want to send this video to Anthony Nato, the CEO of SoFi, or just pass along this message to him, Anthony, your business model is finished. It's dead. The lending system is dead. It's still kicking and screaming, but it's a dead man walking. Federal student loans are going away. You can't have a lending system that is this catastrophically failed based on those numbers I said at the top of this broadcast and expect that this lending system is going to be around in a couple of years. It's not. So SoFi needs to go and find another market to steal. They need to get out of the student loan business. And quite frankly, I can't wait until we get bankruptcy rights returned to not only federal student loans, which our bill S2598 accomplishes, but also private student loans. And there's another bill in the House, HR 4907, which hopefully it might get some legs under it soon. But, if you have private student loans, you need to be fighting very hard for HR 4907. You need to be contacting Steve Cohen of Tennessee, doing everything you can do to get him to push that bill. And screw the private lenders. They have been soaking in the bathtub of gold, sucking free money out of the government, out of the taxpayers on the student loan scam for decades now. It's time for them to take a bath. It's time for them to go away and at least live with the same bankruptcy protections that every other lender for every other borrower must live with. Hard lesson. It's not that hard. I don't feel sorry for Anthony Nato or SoFi. They paid $400 million just to name a freaking football stadium. And they did that with your money, by the way. Ridiculous. So anyways, guys, I'm very optimistic. And this is truly the most interesting and important week in the history of our organization. I have an action item for you today that's very, very, very important. We are pushing Joe Biden right now to do two things. The two things that I said: cancel the loans, return bankruptcy to the loans by executive order, and also push Congress to pass our bill S-2598. Really, the second thing, bankruptcy, is the most important thing. We're not going to get the first thing without the second thing. We've got to get the threat of bankruptcy back. We've got to get the leverage of bankruptcy back if we're going to see any kind of meaningful student loan cancellation. So we are pushing Joe Biden today via Twitter to do both of those things. And we need your help. So I'm going to ask you, if you do nothing else today to fight for yourself, at least do this. Go to our Twitter, at studentloanjustice.1 is our account. Look at our number one tweet, our pinned tweet, retweet that. I hate saying tweet, but whatever, retweet it. I hate Twitter. A lot of people hate Twitter, but Twitter is pretty effective, guys. I have to say, it actually works. So do that, retweet that, but more than that, quote tweet that tweet to a couple of national news organizations. Could be NPR or PBS or 60 Minutes or McNeil Lehrer, if that show, even the News Hour on PBS. Could be CBS, NBC, whatever. Fox News is great. Quote tweet it to a national news organization and also a couple of local news organizations, like your local newspaper, like your local news station on TV. Quote tweet it to them, and that will help a lot. We worded the tweet so that hopefully it has a chance at like going viral, because everybody who sees it is urged to do that also, what I just said. So anyways, we're pushing it hard. I think we've got 350 retweets so far today. It's not bad. But we need your help. So at least do that today. We are going to be hitting Republican senators and governors tomorrow and Wednesday. Our bill is being marked up right now. We've got 2 Republican senators on the bill, and that is very important. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group. That's maybe the first thing that you need to know about us. We pretty much hate both parties, Democrats and Republicans. We might hate one a little worse than the other, but whatever. We're a nonpartisan group. But the important thing that you need to know is that historically, Republicans have tended to oppose us, and there's no good reason for that. We've got a very strong conservative argument to make. And I may even give you an example of that. It's important for you to know that Republicans should be on our side. And to our great credit, 2 Republican senators are now co-sponsored on our bill. John Cornyn out of Texas and Josh Hawley out of Missouri. So this gives us everything we need to be pushing Republican senators to join Senators Hawley and Cornyn from Missouri and Texas and co-sponsor our bill. Hey, I've got to see another comment here from Joanne. A couple comments. Hey, Joanna Kearns says, and by the way, Joanna, I appreciate all the work that you've been doing. I've noticed over the past 3 weeks, Joanna has been doing our daily actions every single day, and that's so important. And if you haven't been doing our daily actions, you should go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, and to make up for the past, do a month worth of our daily actions. They're on Twitter. They're quick. You can do a month worth of daily actions in probably 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So please do that. And thank you, Joanna. Joanna says, good evening, Alan. I will very gladly send the CEO of SoFi this video, bastard, from Joanna. Yeah, do that. You know, SoFi needs to get out of the game. They need to rethink their whole business model, and they need to find another tit to suck on until it bleeds. Hopefully not the taxpayers' tit, but, you know, old dogs don't change their stripes or something. You know the one. Old dogs, new tricks, whatever. Hey, Lisa Longmire says, nothing like waiting until the... Oh, you already said that. Yeah, we'll see what Joe Biden does. I think they'll probably, if they don't make an announcement this week, then I think they're going to take the plunge and they're going to try and turn the lending system back on May 1st. That's not going to go well. It's going to be a fucking disaster. Whenever they turn this lending system back on, we are going to see a mass default. People are not going to pay. They're not going to. And they might grab everybody and automatically take them out of default. They might play all kinds of tricks and try as hard as they can to get people to start paying again. But I'm telling you, it ain't going to happen. And everybody out there needs to think for themselves, because your ass is on the line. And ask yourself this very simple question. Come May 1st or whenever they turn the lending system back on, do you want to face that reality with the threat of bankruptcy at least back on your side? Or would you rather face May 1st naked and vulnerable and with your ass on the chopping block for the collection companies to feast themselves on? I can think of a better way to word that. But yeah, guys, I hope that you see the wisdom in having the leverage, the threat, the protection of bankruptcy back on your side. If for no other reason, when they turn this lending system back on, we're going to see a mass default. And the collection industry is drooling at the prospect of a mass default in the continued absence of bankruptcy protections and statutes of limitations. Hey, Doug Gustafson says, what is your take on the Debt Collective Day? Hey, Doug. Yeah, good question. We're always glad. So Debt Collective is arguing for full and total cancellation of all federally owned student loans, just like we are. The major difference there is that I don't hear Debt Collective saying anything about bankruptcy. And that, quite frankly, is at this point, it's starting to get fairly alarming because, as I said, we've been doing this for many years, guys, and the collection industry would love to see a mass default. As I was just saying, as long as bankruptcy is gone. And so I can only hope that the Debt Collective and others see that as a practical matter, they shouldn't be setting the students up for the borrowers, us, we're not students. They really should be with us in fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections, because as everyone knows, we're not going to get full and total loan cancellation only. It's not going to work that way. As a practical matter, we've got to get bankruptcy back first in order to get meaningful student loan cancellation down the line. And for a million other reasons, we've got to have the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side. So, I'm glad to see demonstrations in Washington, D.C. Our group has done several. In fact, our group has done dozens, if you really get technical about it. They're kind of hard to pull off, though. And, unless you can get 5,000 or 10,000 people to show up for a demonstration, it's just I don't see a huge payoff there. But I think what's far stronger is everybody out there within the sound of my voice owning this problem. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to make a point. We all collectively can make a far stronger point every single day where we are. If you've got internet, and I know you do, if you've got email, if you've got a phone, we can get way more done without having to get into the street and shake our fist and do all that stuff. And I love it, by the way. I'm glad that they did it, and I salute them for their efforts. But really, guys, I think where this battle is won is in the trenches on a daily basis. It's daily effort, daily persistence. That's the pressure that's really needed. So, and who knows, maybe at some point we'll be able to get 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people to get together in one place and make a really strong statement. I hope that happens. But at this point, I'm not counting on it. Debt is a very personal issue, and it's hard to get people even out of bed and on Twitter a lot of days, let alone get them on a plane or a bus to go to Washington, D.C. for a couple of days and do all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 3 years, and in spring and summer, you'd see probably 3 demonstrations throughout the city every single day. Most of them were like, a couple dozen people, and Every once in a while, we'd have a huge one like the women's rally or some of the Trump rallies that came through, etc. Um, uh, um, and the big ones get a lot of attention. The little ones get no attention, and it's just such a pain in the ass. But anyways, like I said, the most powerful tool that any of us have is right here where you're sitting, where I'm sitting. Anybody can send email. Anybody can make phone calls. And quite frankly, in my humble opinion, if you want the student loan problem solved, you have no excuse for not at least doing, let's say, the daily actions that we do here on this group. Like, it takes not even 5 minutes a day. Most times our daily actions take like probably 20 seconds. It's like retweet this, retweet that. Hey, another comment here from Lisa. Oh yeah, turnout for the Debt Collective looked horrible. Yeah, guys, don't bash on people who made the effort to go to Washington, D.C. and put their ass out on the street for you. I think the Debt Collective deserves high praise, because I'm telling you guys, it is a serious pain in the ass. And when nobody shows, it's a real pisser. It's a real downer. And shame on you people. No, I'm sorry. I love everyone. But I'm just telling you guys, debt is a personal thing. It is Machiavellianly clever the way this particular scam was foisted upon the people. There's so much personal shame involved, and guilt, and stigma. Nobody wants to go out in the street and shake their fist and say, yeah. Like, imagine our predicament. It's like we weren't calling for, at that, when we were in DC, we weren't calling very simply for loan cancellation. We were calling for the return of bankruptcy rights to student loans. So can you imagine how hard it was to get people to come to Washington, D.C. and show up and shake their fists and say, give us our bankruptcy rights back? Very difficult. Like, very difficult. But like I said, I don't think this battle is going to be won in the street. We can't compete with, some of the other big name, brand name protest march people things and all that stuff. It's a different animal. Student loan debt is a different animal. What we can do is work very hard from where we sit right now, not once a year in DC, but every single freaking day. I didn't swear. I was going to say pardon my French, but I didn't swear. You need to own this problem. This problem will not go away until you own this problem. These are your loans. This is your problem. This is your battle to fight. And if you sit on the sidelines and eat popcorn and, cheerlead and hope and expect that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, it's never going to happen. And shame on you for that. Honestly, shame on you. Doug, Joanna, everybody else I've seen on the talk tonight, they are doing it's not hard. It's not particularly pleasant. I think it's fun. They are doing the work necessary. They're making the daily efforts necessary to move this mountain. They can't do it on their own. I can't do it on my own. Lisa can't do it on her own. And Lisa's done a ton. You got to pull your weight. You've got to join us. You're not better than us. Trust me on that. You've got to step up. And so for those of you who have not been, I'm not going to say shame on you, but I will say, if you want this problem solved, you got to join us. It's actually, in my opinion, fun to fight. It's cathartic. Like, look at my News Nation interview last week. I had fun doing that. We went into the lion's den and we shut those people down because our argument is sledgehammer strong. It's strong. And it feels good. It's cathartic. Sitting around waiting, watching, worrying with your tail in between your legs, that's not good. That's not good for you. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good. Fighting is a constructive way to spend all that energy. Instead of like stewing in your own juices, you can be helping us. And as I said, it's not hard. It's frankly easy. I think it feels great. I sleep like a baby at night. The only thing that we're missing is you. If even 20% of the people in our group, the 1 million people on our petition, the couple 100,000 people on our other platforms, if they put in 5 or 10 minutes a day, we would have this problem done these loans would be gone, and we all would be moving on with our lives inside of probably 2 months. Seriously, we could shut down every congressional switchboard, every congressional Twitter account, every governor's office, every Senate staffer's email, all that stuff. We could overwhelm them and we would be done. We'd be done. And that starts with you sitting there. And to all the people, Joanna, Doug, Lisa, Crystal, everybody out there who I know are doing this stuff, I salute you. And you know I do. We are the pioneers, and I can't say how impressed I am. I know it can be difficult at first, believe me. But this is the fight. This is the battle. Either you're fighting it or you're watching. And if you're watching, you're not doing anything good. You know, our opposition wants you doing nothing more than sitting on your ass, waiting, watching, worrying, reading Forbes magazine, and waiting and watching and worrying some more. That's what our opposition wants you to be doing. Don't give them the pleasure. Help us fight. We know the right path forward, and we are very close. We are closer than we've ever been. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I have only been saying that for the past like 5 or 6 months. We are so far ahead today than where we were 2 years ago. We are this close, ladies and gentlemen, but this last stretch of the marathon, or whatever you want to say, is very important. Everybody has got to fight, including you. You can't unhear that. So at a minimum, everybody out there who has not been doing anything, and you know who you are, it's like 90% of everybody watching this, the minimum that you will do right now today is do that thing I said, go to our Twitter account thing and retweet that and quote tweet that, and then go to our website and do at least a month worth of our daily actions. It's quick. It goes by quick. It's mostly Twitter. Easy to do. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're thrilled. I hope you're ready to get to work. This problem is pretty much waiting on you to come and get it solved. We've got a massive muscle to flex. We can move mountains, but that only happens when you make the effort. So anyways, guys, I'm stoked. Hopefully I'm ending this live stream on a positive note. We've never been closer, and with your help, we'll get there. If you count on the talking heads in Washington, D.C. to solve this problem for us, well, you're going to be waiting a long time. And let's not do that, guys. I want these loans gone. I want to take this banner behind me and throw it in the garbage. I want these loans gone. I want to be able to move on with my life. You want to be able to move on with your life. This whole thing is stupid in the first place. So let's just strap it on and get this done, shall we? Push as hard as you've ever pushed for anything over the next 2 to 3 months, and tell everyone you know about our group. Tell everyone you know about our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. More hands make heavy work light. Everybody with student loans needs to know about us, needs to be helping us. So we got this, guys. Crystal Marie Gerke says, yes. Absolutely, Joanna says. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. We got this. We got this. So anyways, I will see you on, I will be back on Wednesday. Ed, our fearless co-leader, will be back tomorrow. But get on it, guys. We need you. All right. Peace. Oh, and by the way, check out our News Nation interview. You can see how to answer the questions of all the haters. So you go to newsnation.com and do a search for like, should Joe Biden cancel student loans? And you can see our interview where we go into the lion's den and we answer most of the tough questions. So do that. All right, guys. I'll see you Wednesday. Good luck. Get to work. Daily actions. Godspeed. God bless everybody.